You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the resistance. Tuesday, March 12th. I'm Dean Obeidallah, and I desperately want to be your MBFF. I'm on Twitter, folks. I am there waiting at Dean Obeidallah. You can watch the monologue if you so choose. Facebook.com/Dean of Radio, or drop me an email, dean@deanofradio.com. A lot going on. We've got a lot to talk about. But first, I don't read a lot of Trump tweets on air. But this was just a level of stupidity that it doesn't even make sense to me. There's something going on I don't even get, because I think he's speaking in code to Vladimir Putin, because it doesn't make sense. It makes sense in English words when you line them up. But who would tweet this? And it's not even like racist or anything. It's not that typical garbage. It's like the ramblings of someone screaming on the D train in New York in the middle of the night. He tweeted, and it's going to sound like a parody. You're going to think like, this is Colbert. It's not. I'll play Colbert after this. He tweeted, airplanes are becoming far too complex to fly. Pilots are no longer needed, but rather computer scientists from MIT. I see it all the time in many products. He goes, then he adds, I don't know about you, but I don't want Albert Einstein to be my pilot. I want great flying professionals that are allowed to easily and quickly take control of a plane. Who doesn't want Albert Einstein to be their pilot? Who doesn't? But then I thought about it. He's being shrewd. What Trump is doing here is he's pushing for less qualified pilots to fly planes, because he's trying to reach that tough voting group that you really can't reach. It's those people who hope to die in a plane crash, apparently. Because who else would be, I don't want pilots to be really smart and well-trained to fly my planes. I don't want Albert Einstein. I want Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, if your children are alive, you're the ghost of Albert Einstein, please fly my plane. Let's go to Colbert for a second. Colbert talks about Trump's budget, which we're going to get into. Trump's budget, let me put it this way. It is great for everyone, from the super rich to the uber wealthy. It is great for that whole wide spectrum. The rest of us were screwed, and we're going to go through it in some detail, because with someone like Trump, who's not afraid to shut the government down over any whim, he might shut the government down over this. But first, here's Colbert making fun of the title of Trump's budget. And this is what he's going to read in the beginning, is what's really on Trump's budget. The second part's the joke part, but this is it. Clip number 1, please.
Also, happy Budget Day, John. Do you know today's the Budget Day?
Budget Day, yeah.
The president finally released his 2020 spending plan, which he's calling a budget for a better America. Promises kept, taxpayers first. Okay, first of all, pick a slogan. Just one. That title's got a little junk in the trunk. But he overdoes everything. It's always too much. Originally, Trump wanted to call it a budget for a better America. Finger licking good. We are farmers. Ba-da-ba-ba-da. I'm loving it. And the reviews are already in. House Democrats rave, dead on arrival. No chance of passing, and divorced from reality. Is there anything he won't divorce?
Funny stuff. And then quickly, Colbert gets into one part of the budget. We will talk about it. Here's clip number 2.
Democrats have a very good reason for opposing this budget. It includes a request for at least $8.6 billion more in funding for a wall. You were a little late, but thank you very much. We've been here before. You know the old saying, fool me once. Wait a second, you didn't fool me the first time. You're already trying it again? You can't. But Trump's budget isn't supposed to appeal to Democrats. It's for his base in the run-up to 2020.
And absolutely. And I stopped there even before the joke, because that is the very point. Well, we're going to go through some of Trump's budget here, and I'm not going to make it this kind of accounting type of world. I will talk about some of the human impact. Again, the reason this appeals to his base is that the wealthy do not want him to talk about tax cuts. I mean, they do not want to talk about raising taxes. What they want is to gut every program that helps fellow Americans so there's no tax increase. That's what they want. And then you'd say, well, what about the middle class and lower middle class that support Trump? I guess they don't care. They're taken for granted by Trump. He doesn't care. They like other things of Trump. So let's go through some of the actual stuff in this Trump budget. And again, let's be very clear. A presidential budget is an aspirational document. It's not, I don't think, ever actually been enacted the way it's submitted. But with Donald Trump, he is someone who might shut down the government for any of these things. It also makes it very clear what the Republican Party is about. And I think I'll go through this. You're going to hear such a stark contrast between what we as Democrats, as progressives believe in and what they believe in. And I have to thank Trump for making it this clear, because we don't have to exaggerate to make great points about what we are going to do when we get the White House and the Senate and compare to what they want to do. And this is it. Let's go through some of the things here. By the way, as a reminder, Trump's massive tax cut for corporations and the wealthy, that has not created jobs. The jobs report last month, 20,000 jobs. It's not created jobs. It's resulted in stock buybacks. It caused a $1.9 trillion addition to our debt. And the federal deficit from last year to this year went up 17%. I can read you the numbers. It sounds like a video game, so forget that. Let's talk about the human stuff here. I'll give you some of the numbers, but let's talk about what's really going on. The budget, here are the increases in the budget. Wants to increase the military by 5% to $750 billion. He wants $8.6 billion for his wall. That's on top of the emergency, because this entire wall, folks, is not $6 billion or $8 billion. It's $25, $30, $40 billion. There are varying estimates. So little by little, he should have just submitted this to the Mexican legislature and let them shut it down. But no, that's what he wants to increase. So what does he want to cut? Literally everything else. Every safety net, every program designed to help families, seniors, children, he wants to gut. Let's start with Medicare, a program he vowed he would not touch, that he would not cut. A program that helps 54 million Americans, including my mom. Do you know what Trump has proposed? And these are the exact numbers. There's no exaggeration. He has proposed cutting $845 billion from Medicare. You know, a staggering 25% of the people on Medicare are making below $14,000. This is a lifeline. He wants to cut 10%. My mom cannot deal with 10% less benefits from Medicare. I don't know how many of your family members or if you're on Medicare think about losing 10%. That's what Trump wants to do. Again, all of these cuts are for one reason, to pay for the tax cut to the wealthy and for the corporation tax cut. Next, he wants to cut Medicaid, a program that helps 75 million Americans, and not just the poor. It does help the poor. It also helps 60% of senior citizens who are in nursing homes depend on Medicaid, not Medicare. Medicaid, like my mom, if she runs out of assets, she will then qualify for Medicaid to go live in a nursing home. So again, 60%, folks, of all seniors in nursing homes today rely on Medicaid. You've got children who rely on Medicaid. The disabled rely on Medicaid. He wants to cut, you ready? $1.5 trillion over the next 10 years. The tax cut for the wealthy, $1.9 trillion deficit, you might see exactly what's going on. He's trying to cut from seniors, from the poor, from children, a safety net. This is a safety net, Medicaid. Social Security, something he vowed never to cut. He proposed $25 billion in cuts to Social Security over the next 10 years, including to disability insurance, which is part of Social Security. He vowed never to cut Medicare, never to touch Social Security. He is now proposing cuts in both. SNAP, which is the program which we all know as food stamps. It is a program that helps millions and millions of Americans. It is the domestic hunger safety net. It is the safety net for Americans who don't have enough food to eat. Food stamps. He wants to cut $220 billion over the next 10 years. This is food stamps, a program where families can make sure their kids have food so they can go to school and concentrate and be productive. Wants to cut it. Speaking of schools, student loans. He wants to cut $207 billion from student loan program, eliminating the public service loan forgiveness. And speaking of education, in a bigger sense, he's proposing $7 billion in cuts to the education department, including eliminating 29 programs like after-school programs, summer programs for people in high poverty areas, among other things. So, in sum, Donald Trump wants to cut 9% of non-defense spending. And Section 8 housing, Head Start, Women's, Infants, and Children's program, everything that helps people. And he wants to, again, raise the military budget, spend $8 billion on a wall. Oh, yeah, and there's one more thing in his budget he's going to spend money on. $20 million to help Jack Nicklaus, I'm not kidding you, the golfer. $20 million to help Jack Nicklaus, the golfer, who, it's very well-intentioned, has started a hospital It's very nice. Miami's Nicholas Children's Hospital wants to spend $20 million there. How did he get to know Trump? How did Nicholas lobby Trump? And this is all in the reporting, playing golf together. So you see, if you're wealthy and you're a celebrity, you get access to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump only cares about the wealthy. He only cares about celebrities. So is this great? This hospital is great. Why this hospital and not all the other programs? Because the other programs are not catering to celebrities and to the wealthy. And again, this is a great budget. It helps everyone from the really wealthy to the uber rich. If you're in that spectrum, this is great because you're not going to pay more taxes and everyone else is going to get hurt in this country. It is a cruel budget. That is what Donald Trump is about, cruelty, and this budget reflects that. Meanwhile, when we want to help people with any program, what do they call us? Socialists. We want socialism. Again, as I was on River Al shows on Sunday, very clearly, there are no Democrats advocating socialism taking over our nation. Socialism is defined as the government taking over the means of production of a country, including that means like the banks, the farms, everything. No Democrat is calling for that. Let's remind you, when Democrats proposed Medicare, they had Ronald Reagan out there, the Republicans. He was not a candidate then. He was a celebrity, traveling the nation, calling Medicare socialism, literally calling it socialism. Same thing, Medicaid, Social Security, the ACA, Children's Health Insurance Program. What do they all have in common? All Democratic initiatives. We create programs that make me proud. Programs that help fellow Americans. Help Americans I may never meet. And some in my own family. And they help people. Student loans. Providing people an opportunity to better themselves. Or to stay alive with health care. Or to feed their children so they can do well in this world. That's what we're about. What the GOP is about, and it's very, very clear with Donald Trump here. And I have to applaud him for being so honest in this horrific budget that is to appeal to his base. Because his base likes this. Gutting programs that help people, they don't care. And I've always said this. I do not in any way believe conservatives don't care. They do care. It's just their orbit of care is very, very limited. It's their family, maybe the direct community. As progressives, we care about people we don't know and will never meet. You know, President Obama in his 2004 speech when he said there's no red state, no blue state America, just the United States, he also said something else I'll always remember. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but the point is what I'm getting at. He said that if there is a child hungry on the south side of Chicago, it's not my child, I still care. And that if there's a senior citizen somewhere who can't get the prescription drugs, and I don't know that person, I'm not related, I still care. And he said specifically, if there's an Arab family being harassed and being profiled, even though they're not my family, I still care. And that's what being a progressive is about. Caring about people we'll never meet. And that's why these are the stakes. It's only, if the GOP could have their dream and run everything, it literally would be almost no taxes for the rich, almost no taxes for corporations, no regulations, environmental disaster, apocalypse of the environment. They don't care because it gets in the way of their bottom line, and no programs to help anybody. They'll say you can rely on charity. So this is where we are right now. I want to know, how do Democrats, what do you think Democrats to make this case effectively? I think this is so compelling. And this is not anti-Trump as Donald Trump, the racist, bigot, corrupt piece of garbage he is. This is about policy. This is telling our fellow Americans, if you're fine with Medicare being gutted to the tune of billions of dollars and Medicaid being gutted, which helps seniors and children and poor people, and you're fine with gutting Medicaid, and food stamps and the education budget, then vote Republican. But if you believe the government can help people, it should be a safety net. We are the party for that. If you want to see the next step, they call it socialism. Here is their inconvenient truth for them. Everything they call socialism, polls show support us. They're a solid majority on issue after issue. Medicare for all, they call it socialism. A solid majority of even Republicans support the idea of federally provided health care. Tax on the wealthy. Over 70% of Americans, including a solid majority of Republicans, agree with the idea of raising tax on the very wealthy. Raising the minimum wage to $15. They'll call it socialism. A solid majority of Americans support that. The idea of education for all on some level to post-high school. A majority of Americans, not as strong as the other ones, but still a majority, support that. That's not socialism. That's helping people. What they want, anything to help people, they call socialism. That's where we are. So Look, I'm going to take a break, come back. You're my guest at the top of the hour. I'd love to hear from you about, when you hear about these cuts and these budgets, how do we make the most of it as Democrats to make the case? Secondly, there was a poll, and I'm really, really curious. So whatever you call on is fine, but I'm going to ask you, because I'm writing this down here. There was a poll in Iowa, CNN poll came out Sunday, and not about the candidates. That's not what's really important to me now. They asked Democrats, specifically Democrats in Iowa, what are the top issues for you? And I want to see, I'm not going to tell you what they said. I want to just see if it matches up with our progressive base, or is Iowa an outlier, or are they lining up perfectly? Because I think it's really important to know where Iowa, because they're the first ones with so much input. And on a racial demographic breakdown, they do not reflect America. But do they in terms of progressive policy? So whatever issue you call about, it's fine, but if I remember, I'm going to write it down and ask you. I mean, the list of issues, and this is in no order, range from criminal justice reform, that were all in this poll I'm talking about. Guns, impeachment, that was a question. Income inequality, healthcare, climate change. And the question is, what do you want Democratic candidates to be talking about and championing? And what are the highest percentages? And I'll tell you after we go through it all. So 866-997-4748. I'd love to hear from you right here on the Dean Obeidallah Show.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
My slogan for Trump in 2020, Trump for prison 2020.
SiriusXM Progress.